Brad Melke, ABC News correspondent in New York. Good morning, Brad Melke.
Hey, good morning, McGraw.
All right, so a judge ruled what? That Donald Trump can be sued? Fill us in on this story.
Yeah, so this goes back to a rally in Louisville about a year ago, in which you saw some images of protesters not just being escorted out, but really being shoved by several different members of the crowd. And this, of course, after Donald Trump said, as he did a lot during that time, get him out of here. And so these protesters say that President Trump really was issuing a directive, that those supporters were really just following the words of the future president and did as he said. So they say he should be held liable for that. Now, in a civil suit, they have filed suit against two of the men who were doing the shoving. One of them was a Korean War veteran. You might have seen these sort of viral images of him in his hat shoving this young black woman out, along with a white supremacist, a guy who's led some white supremacist organizations in that area. But they're also filing suit against President Trump himself. And the judges said that case can go ahead and proceed, that there is enough evidence so far to say a jury or perhaps lawyers, as they settle the case, could find that he helped incite a riot.
So, Brad Melke, even the most ardent Clinton supporter and most anti-Trumper would say, hey, wait a minute. He said get him out of here. He didn't say beat him up. He didn't say punch him. He didn't say knock him out. It seems like to be a pretty far reach to somehow blame Donald Trump for this.
Yeah, and in fact, he said a few seconds later, he said, don't hurt him. And he said the press will get on me. I'll have problems with the press if I say like go after him or something like that. And so his lawyers say, look, he said don't hurt him. The call to get him out of here was clearly a call for professional security, is what they're arguing, not for members of the crowd to go after him. And they say there wasn't necessarily a riot at all, right? That there were a bunch of people in the crowd perhaps roughing these people up, but this was not an organized call to violence or anything. The other argument they're making is you're really putting a chill on free speech if you're telling political candidates what they can and can't say. And the judge's responses to those things were, first of all, encouraging violence isn't protected under the First Amendment, so that doesn't get you anywhere. The other thing he said was technically inciting a riot applies to just more than a few people getting out of hand. It doesn't actually have to be violence for you to be held accountable for speaking of violence. And with the thing you're talking about, McGraw, this idea that he said don't hurt him. The judge says, well, in the past he had encouraged violence explicitly, that in the past he had said things like in the good old days people really would get beaten up, and he said those words should be taken into consideration. So this is, once again, a judge in the federal court system saying, I'm sorry, Mr. President, but your words from the past can be used against you, whether it's the Muslim ban or in this case, violence against protesters. He's saying that the president's past words should be taken into account as well.
This Judge David Hale, is he a liberal, conservative? Who was he appointed by? Do we know?
I actually don't know his appointment history. He's a judge in the U.S. District Court there in Louisville. So this is a rather local case, even though it's a federal judge. And again, this is basically just saying that there's not enough to toss these charges out.
Right.
That deciding what the president meant when he said something, it's not really provable. So it's going to be up to lawyers or potentially a jury in the future. It's just not. He can't throw it out just because he thinks the president meant something else right then.
Brad Melke, have yourself a good day.
Hey, thank you.
You got it. 7:10 here, Big 550.